Welcome to Reeves Rants, the voice of the average Joe of the working class. I got a story for you tonight. Trevor Noah knows exactly why Republicans are against interracial couples. Wow, that is a really crazy title to just attack all Republicans, considering Democrats have pretty much labeled everybody who doesn't think of Democrat things and doesn't think like Democrats are automatically Republicans. Pretty much labels a whole lot of Americans who aren't Republicans as interracial couple haters as well. This is that inflammatory speech I talk about. This is that nonsense that I can't stand, this bias crap that these people are just saying without any consideration as to the people that they're attacking, who they want to watch them and want to listen to them. It's unbelievable, the ignorance that's involved with so many people who get to talk on TV. And with that being said, if you haven't hit the like and subscribe, do that now, because let's roll into this. The Daily Show host Trevor Noah has a feeling why Republicans aren't willing to protect same-sex and interracial marriage rights. Noah discussed the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade during his Wednesday night episode and said the abortion decision opened the door to future rulings that could overturn other rights. Okay. Conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, in a concurring opinion in the abortion case, said the court should look at other precedents based on rights of privacy, including same-sex marriage and contraception. Now, first off, just so you know, right there, is you quoted Clarence Thomas, who is in an interracial marriage. This man is in an interracial marriage. And then also, you also quoted in here, same-sex marriage and contraception. So he didn't bring up interracial marriage at all. So now we know, going into the start of this article, that it's not about interracial marriage at all. It's about what Trevor Noah wants to extrapolate from this, and this is the damaging and dangerous part of it, is that we have ignorant people teaching other people and talking to other people and influencing other people to...
The probability that a person is stupid is independent of any other characteristic. So the idea here is that every characteristic that you can imagine, whether it's gender, race, nationality, education level, income, any category you can imagine, is uncorrelated to whether or not a person is stupid. There are stupid Nobel Prize winners
who vote and act and think in ways that aren't beneficial to them and aren't beneficial to any of us and are actually negative and harmful to our country and to all of our ways of life. And
non-stupid people underestimate the danger of the stupid. And non-stupid people constantly forget that at all times and all places and under any circumstances, to deal with and or associate with stupid people always turns out to be a costly mistake. Everyone underestimates just how dangerous stupid people are.
And especially about how you think about your other people, or about other people. And about people who just don't happen to have the exact aligning views on life as you, but many other ones may. We're ruling people out of our lives and discarding viewpoints and factual evidence that could be right in front of our face of things that later on we find out to be true because we're so worried about where the information's coming from. And this kind of speech that he's talking about is destructive towards people listening to Republicans. And Republicans aren't all bad, and Democrats aren't all bad. So this inflammatory speech just targeting people and then basically labeling anybody who opposes abortion or opposes gay rights or contraception automatically is a Republican and should automatically be hated. You know, the truth is you can have many different opinions about the abortion thing. Some people can have the opinion that you can have abortion be legal, but have limits on it. And that seems so crazy to the people who want to have no limits. But yet what nobody's considering is that when it comes to this is if you're a person who supports abortion, up into the day before a baby is supposed to be born, you're dangerous to all of us. The rest of us should start to consider and start to worry about the people who support these things just open-endedly without any thought and without any concern about how it affects all of us or the people, the children you're killing. And we're talking about like the day before a person's born, some people support abortion still. That is no longer an abortion. That's a murder. Like at a certain point, we need to accept that. And I'm one of those people. I'm on the board. I'm willing to accept abortion to a certain extent because I know that if I don't accept it to a certain extent, that the argument will never end.
We had two choices. We were either going to be the negotiator inside the room or the demonstrator on the lawn. And we decided that the negotiator in the room was a vastly better outcome for the people we represent.
I'm never going to get my way of nobody ever doing it again because I don't want babies to die, not because I don't want you to have your freedom, but because but I also know that you shouldn't be forced into doing something that you don't want to do either. So this argument would never end if I'm not willing to make a compromise. And I'm willing to make a compromise to say that I'm willing to accept abortion to a certain extent, to certain limits. And the people who support abortion should say, you know what? A limit would be okay. But instead, what we have are people like Trevor Noah who are inflaming these arguments and just sending them into arguments and fits of rage and getting people emotionally worked up with no repercussions upon Trevor Noah of how this negatively affects us all, of how his speech and his rhetoric and his direction of people is creating anger that is unbiased or unneeded, that unneeded anger and unneeded emotional responses to these things because Trevor Noah doesn't know what's going on, because Trevor Noah isn't practiced enough in these actual things. Instead, he spouts off about things he doesn't know about, and then quotes a man, Clarence Thomas, who's in an interracial marriage. And then the first two things he talks about is same-sex marriage and abortion, same-sex marriage, and contraception, and hasn't brought up interracial marriage yet. This is the inflammatory speech that is causing damage to our country, and we need to start ignoring and dismissing people. It's not about canceling people. It's about not listening to these people, because some people just aren't worth listening to. Instead of being so biasly focused on who we're listening to, instead of what we're listening to and what the facts actually are. With marriage equality under threat, the House this week passed the Respect for Marriage Act, which faces an uncertain future in the Senate. Every House Democrat voted for the bill, but only 47 of 211 GOP representatives were for it. Just because all the GOP guys didn't get in on it doesn't mean that it's because they're anti-protection of marriage or of same-sex or of these things you're fighting for. It's that there could be other things tied into the bill that they don't want tied into the bill. Politicians in general, both sides of the aisle, tend to add things to bills that have nothing to do with bills that get bills rejected. If bills were just exactly the way that the title represents, then just like the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, if it was exactly what people called it, the Don't Say Gay bill, then that would be a positive, or then that would be an actual representation of the bill. But given the fact that it doesn't say anywhere in it, don't say gay, and doesn't even refer to gay, it's very curious then as to why people are calling it the Don't Say Gay bill. And it's exactly the speech and exactly the stuff I'm talking about. They're using celebrities like Trevor Noah and many others to get people emotionally built up against these causes, when they don't understand that these 211 GOP representatives may not want to spend $4 billion in the rainforest of Guatemala fighting snake venom. Who knows? Because that's what some of this stuff comes down to. is there's money in there. There's other stuff in there that's not just this straight bill. I guarantee you that. Noah on Wednesday questioned why those 157 GOP representatives voted against the bill. Just like I just said, is there could be other stuff in there that doesn't have to do with just protecting same-sex marriage. I could point back to a video I done recently about how the news isn't good about follow-up. See, you'll just throw out all these accusations. You'll get all your viewers hating on the GOP for not just supporting gay marriage, and then you'll walk away and no one will ever care. Meanwhile, there's probably reasons that you're not listening to. So you're on the record now against interracial marriage. Hold up. Do you see that? Do you see how he took it from Clarence Thomas talking about same-sex marriage and contraception, and he turned it into interracial marriage that Clarence Thomas, he himself is engaged in? What he's talking about is damaging and hurtful to all of us. And it's pitting people against other people. It's making people believe that if you're not a Democrat, that you're automatically for or against certain things. He's making people believe that everything are such polarizing, you're either this or you're either that. If you don't support 100% of this bill, then you're definitely anti-racist or anti-racial marriage. That's exactly what he just did. That is damaging. Look, I know mixed couples have ruined your lives for the past few years, but I think it's time to let it go. This kind of conversation and kind of rhetoric produces ignorance, produces hatred for absolutely no reason.
There are way more people who behave in this socially stupid way than you think.
Noah said as he flashed an image of the latest two Democrat presidents and vice presidents. That's exactly the point. We have accepted this. What's bothering me about the racial debate here is there's this kind of forcing people who think politically, a certain way politically, you're also saying that they're racist. And that's kind of the inflammatory part about this, is that you can't equate the way a person feels about money, for instance, and say that it also equates to how they feel about race or sex or gender or or religion. It just has to do with how they feel about money and finance. But what we've done, and what many people like Trevor Noah are doing, and literally all of the people on the left are doing, and are being trained to do this, indoctrinated to do this, is to impose values upon people that they don't know they're talking about.
Look, I think that a lot of what passes for leftist liberal culture today is essentially economic privilege masquerading as morality. And yet that imposition of economic privilege as morality, getting high off of being rich and acting like that makes you a better person, so much of liberal culture is caught up in that.
Saying, well, if you don't support us spending $60 quadrillion sending a man to the sun, then you're obviously a racist. And this is the direction that they're going. It's throwing an argument in a person's face and saying you're a racist because you can't prove you're not. I'm just going to end it there because that's how unbelievably ridiculous this stuff is. I would love to have a debate with almost any one of these people, because the problem is that they're so focused on attacking one individual type of person who just doesn't think like them, that they don't realize that there's many people who think in different ways, who aren't just Republican, who aren't just GOP, but who also don't necessarily agree with some of the things that are going on in our country today. Not to say racism, not to say sex or gay marriage, not to say abortion, but to say financially, to say structurally, to say governmentally. There's lots of other ways that people can oppose the Democrat Party and also not be racist, also not be anti-interracial marriage. It's arguments like this that are causing the divide in our country today. People like him should be dismissed by ratings and by people no longer listening to what people are saying who are causing us damage. And with that being said, if you haven't hit the like and subscribe yet, you definitely should, because if you're still here, you definitely like me, and I definitely like having you here. So thanks again for watching. Watch one of these other videos that I had mentioned earlier on, and we'll see you later.